We got Digitrax stuff here. We got a lot of it. We got enough to drive a huge layout. 3 power districts, controllers, local nets, wireless, infrared. Oh, Wi-Fi now. I'm going to show you guys how this old layout was set up to have 20, 30 guys running trains at the same time on a giant club-sized layout. I'm Ron, Classic Model Trains. Hang out, see how it's done. Now this is a preview of all the hardware stuff that Richard had stored up in his house. These were supposedly not ever stored in the barn because this was like the expensive stuff. PM4 power managers. This is a throttle, smaller throttle, loco nets. This one here's got a radio receiver in it so that it can pick up radio, infrared. Oh, they got so much stuff. Let me show you how this all will hook up. There's a lot to this thing. Try to show you guys why everything is the way that it is. Apparently this layout had a thing that looked like this. This is just generally how it went, just for giggles. Now this here is supposed to be 60 feet, and then from here down is supposed to be 40 feet, from what I've been told. And they had what they call, this is just, there's 4 lines that are in there. This is just the layout modules that they're all put together. And they had different, what they call power districts in there with the DCC. Instead of using just a simple transformer that runs one track, there's actually 4 tracks in this thing that go all the way around. So they'd have the eastbound, westbound, and then they had something that was commodities, is what they called it. And then the yards. So we know we need 2 conductors for each like a zone, I guess, or a circuit of what you would want to run it on. This is their cheat sheet for the wiring of the way it goes. So we want the DCC signal to be split out to be able to service 4 different areas on different circuit breakers. So in case if somebody shorts out on the commodities, it doesn't shut the whole thing down. It would just short out the commodities run and then allow guys to operate all the other trains. And that's where one of these PM4s come into play right here. So this might be a sub-district in a district. 4 circuits that goes all the way around this entire thing. Now the yard sits down over in this area here. So for a yard to be 60 feet long, that's a lot going on. And there was another major yard that was up over in this area here. And then, of course, with the eastbound and westbound traffic. So then it was broke up into different power districts using separate boosters. These are the boosters right here that are also supposed to have separate power supplies to them. And these are supposed to have 20 amp power supplies to them from the size they are. They were set up with power boosters like this with 5 amps. This would be like 1 power district right here. So you could have 10, 15 locomotives operating in here and it wouldn't run out of amp power provided by the power supply with this. And then they'd probably split it up halfway through. Let's just say right here. I don't know. I have to have the entire layout put together in order to have found where these power districts are and the way they work. So this would have allowed 3 power districts with 4 sub-districts inside of them. This is just the power breakup. This would have a power supply up over here. This one would have a power supply, and this one would have a power supply, which would give this layout here the way it looks to be around 15 amps, which is a lot of locomotives that a person can run. And all these things are hooked up with what they call a local area network, a LAN connection, but Digitrax calls it a loco net. And all it is these cables right here. They're a 6 conductor, and they use these to roll through the brains to hook everything up together and to hook these guys together so that when you go into a different power district, the signal is being used. It's timed, it's synced, it's traveling, it's doing what it's supposed to do. I'm gonna get a bigger table set up to show you how this would expand out, you know, how one would hook up and then how it would go into different ones. When I got all this stuff, there was instruction manuals on how to use the Digitrax, but it had a lot of mouse urine and just stink in it. So I spent a couple days printing off a new one. And with my anality, or whatever they call it nowadays, I had to color coordinate it, thumb it, and most of it's not that bad until you get to the throttle. And then the throttle is like the absolute thickest section. The DT400 has got this many. That's this one. Now the pictures I looked at and the stuff that I've read so far, I've got it set up like this. Booster power supply. Now this here, this is not the same thing as this. It looks like it. DCS 200, DB 200 plus. Yeah, sure. Turns out this is the command station. So this is the first one. That's why they were nice enough to have a number 1 on it. And then these are boosters. So they're slaves of this one. Because I had this all wired up. Well, actually I do. It's right there. And I couldn't get any track to turn on, or track status, because it didn't have the main brain. I'm learning as we go. That's why it's taking me 4 days to do this, and it'll show up on you guys in like 20 minutes. So we've came out of the LocoNet, and it comes into the back right over here of the universal panel. And then these 2 ports right here are just for these to be plugged into. And there was something on there initially, and then I did something and then it quit. I don't know if this is supposed to be amber or green or red. So I got to do more reading so I can get my learn on this thing. Then once this gets all set up, they had a real nice plate, plexiglass that goes underneath of them, and these screw into the facade on the backside. Since it's a module layout, these are modular and they can be sort of kind of anywhere. So neat setup. Are them lights on? No. All right. Time to work on some stuff. And after just a few short hours, and some track cleaning, and some wheel cleaning. So this is somewhat exciting, I guess. Test drive it here. Tomorrow, I guess I will take it down and get her set up on the big layout. I think I've got this DCC Loco, and God, I think that's it. I don't know if I got another one up there, especially one that runs. Shoot. Isn't that about the way it would go? All the ones that I get, I fix and then I sell them because, you know, DCC. This one here came with the layout. Maybe, of course, these are all powered right here. I doubt that they're DCC. These guys here, these are the stump pullers. One of them is DCC. Now that I got my own layout on all my own cars, I guess I can finish these things up. People have been asking about them because I can test them on something now. I won't have to beg, borrow, and steal. You know, a big layout. Few benefits. Yep, few benefits. What do you know? I do got another DCC here. I forgot all about this Tyco that I threw $300 worth of stuff at back in the day. Oh, so I got a couple locomotives for that layout tomorrow. Plus this throttle's a dual locomotive throttle, so you got to remember which one to grab a hold of, and man, oh man. All right. We are up here at the layout at the end of the yard before the roundhouse takes place, and right here underneath all this, God, I wish I had a wet paper towel. There's these screw holes right here, because these things, since it's a modular layout, everything's made to be modular. So this is going to bolt on right up under here like this and hold our control surfaces under there. And then it's got slots every now and then for the LocoNet to click in. Here's another one. There's some on the front of the board. Remember, I'm always standing on the back side of this thing because it was made for display for people to look at it. Another one here. We'll have to see if they're hooked in. I think there was another one right here. So usually every module would have had one of those on it. And then the LocoNet is just daisy chained from module to module. up underneath of it. Found me some mechanics wet naps in the van out there. See if I can maybe wipe some of this ish off of there. Oh, that looks a little better. Actually, it looks a lot better. That was the worst one pretty much out of them all, for sure. Must have been on the bottom of the pile. Ugh. I'm gonna get this thing mounted up here. So here's the track power hookup wires right here on the back of that booster unit or main supply unit. And then these are the wires that we run from the track module to track module. So all I gotta do is line up the colors with where they go, and then we're gonna have all 4 track circuits hooked up on here. You see how they daisy chain from module to module like this. Track's already hooked up because we've been running it on DC. So all I gotta do is get the DCC control in it, and we're gonna be in business here. I thought I'd come up here for like an hour and then I'd be done with installing this thing. I had it running last night at the home layout. It should have been really easy. And then I had a short out somewhere in the yard. This right here. And I was underneath the layout and I was back probing and I'm disconnecting wires underneath for just that one. Because this little thing right here tells me that the purple and the brown are the 2 wires that are providing power to the yard. So I disconnect one and I got the PM4 here to quit clicking out. It kind of sounds like a clock. Click, cluck, click, cluck, click. And so I start disconnecting the modules where they go together to try to isolate it down. And then after I had them all unwired, it still was there. And then I realized that the track was conducting. So then I had to start pulling out all the little jumpers. And I got into the yard area and the yard was full of cars. And I'm like, wow, what are we gonna do? So I moved them all over here with the dead rail locomotive. And that was going really well. And then all of a sudden I saw it. One boxcar had a truck and it was rolling like a dream. That truck was sideways and yeah, I wish it would have just arced and smoked. Then I could have found it easier. I need a bigger power supply. I only had 5 amps. Let's show you what we got going on. That was such a hassle. Unbelievable. I'm gonna hit record this time. I've been talking for 10 minutes and then I realized I wasn't even recording. So we've got this one here put in. This is the DCC command station and booster combo. So you gotta have the command station, like it's gotta be the brain. The guy that's doing everything. That's why it's got the number 1 on it. We've got PM4 sitting in right there. These 2 are on 2 separate power supplies right now. And it's all wired into the track from the wires on the back. We've got track power going on up in here. The LocoNet, these gray wires right here, I'm looping it out. It's going through the PM4, out of the PM4, and then off down here to this UP5, universal panel. Just hooked in with these 6 connector cables, loops in the back, comes back out of the back, and it's gonna run down into another panel on the next module. And then it just keeps daisy chaining, comes out, it's running down to the panel on the next module. And I've got, this would go on all the way around every module. I just threw another throttle in over here just for some place to hang it. So we started up right here and we just walked down all of these modules right here. So we come up to this roundhouse. Talking about the power districts, this map right here, we just showed the purple one. And what would end up happening right here is that when I put these tracks in to join the 2 modules, I would have insulated these connections right here. Both tracks would have had an insulative connector on them, and then that would isolate the rest of the layout going down. So this was complete. It would handle everything down and around to wherever, let's say the next power district starts. I just I just randomly drew it like that, but I don't know where it is because I'd have to set it up and figure it all out. That's where this guy comes in, booster. It would have the local net coming into it, telling it all the signals. It's got its own power supply, providing power to the track through the booster. The PM4 is separating it into 4 separate power districts, just like the other one. It would come out and it would loop around into another one of these little fillers where you could hook in a wired controller. It loops out. We would go into the 3rd power district, same way, and then it would have another booster wired in the exact same way. Now, these guys here are pretty handily wired on the back. Booster power comes in, PM4 power right here. They've got it split off into the 4 circuits coming out of it right there because of the way that they wired up this 44 blade connector. This PM4 instruction manual online at Digitrax shows you what pins, what goes into what, solder this in to make this work, shows everything, shows how to wire in the boosters, shows how this is just a great way that they've got these things set up. And I got to give Digitrax credit because even though they've got something that's obsolete that they're not offering anymore, which is some of this stuff, not all of it, but some of it, you've got great documentation available online. And it tells you when something went out of production, what part number replaced it. That's support with a smile right there is what I think. So if we fire this thing up, I got my steamer over there. We're gonna say we wanna run the steamer, turn on the sound. That's that little UP guy. Roll up the juice. This is really quite hard. And of course the track is dirty because I neglected to wipe everything down because I've been fighting with that short circuit. That and I don't know the bells and whistles. But this controller right here, I found it to be pretty neat because you can pull it out. You can use it wirelessly. It is a wired and wireless controller. Right there's the end of it right there. It uses infrared, which is this guy up here on the wall. And unfortunately, it's line of sight. So that means when I get down to this corner of the layout over here, that I can't control it anymore unless I point it and I pick it up over, and it's just like, what do I gotta do? Put it on the ceiling or something like that up there? That'd probably be a good idea. Because there's the little infrared senders right there. And that's not a bad idea. Or we use like Wi-Fi. Wish they had Bluetooth to hook into the layout. I'll have to research that. Yeah, see, I don't got any control over it. But I can walk down over here, patch in, and have control of the locomotive once again. I'm gonna gather that this track is probably not code 100. And I am used to the biggest, thickest stuff. So yeah, my little Tyco stuff is not gonna do very good, I guess. This box here, I had to like take it all apart and wash it because it had so much mouse urine in it and everything. This box was bolted down to where it normally would be. And I took it off so I could take that home, wash it all up, get a power supply for it, the 20 ampere, to run these two, and I think we're gonna be pretty happy with it. Picked up one of these Digitrax. This is for the Wi-Fi. Because I thought it was Bluetooth, I missed up there a little bit. So I'm gonna have to get a router in here. But I got an old router at the house, I think it'll work just fine. Throw it up over there by the light, and it doesn't need to be hooked up to the internet, because when you have a router on, it makes another wireless local area network, WLAN, yeah. And then it'll be able to communicate back and forth, is what I'm hoping. I don't want my layout to have to be hooked up to the internet, because then, I don't know, something will go bad. I've been running some cars. That dead rail locomotive will just pull and pull, not because it's dead rail, but because of the weight and the way that it is. I can pull like 30, 40 cars. I've never been able to do that before, ever. It's just amazing. Fortunately, I can't run it because, dang it, I got a video on my phone and I got to control it with my phone, and I can't do both at once. And oh man, what does a guy do? So now I got all the noise from the little diesels and the steamers. I have 2 of the 3 loops completely cleaned. I drew this little diagram here for me to figure out what rail is what as you're looking at it. The far outside rail, eastbound, westbound, commodities, which I think is like local deliveries or something like that. And then yard, which would be the 4th rail in, and then it would be all of this. So we are capable, currently right now, being able to run maybe 10 locomotives or more on this because of the 5 amp power supply. For the booster, there's 1, but if we got a bigger one, then of course, then you can run more guys and more locos on it. And then there'd be more people to help clean the track. I'm gonna rig this up and see if I can get the loco to pull a big old string around the corner over there, and maybe we'll use that for the outro on this thing. So hopefully I gave you guys a little bit of insight on how this Digitrax stuff works. I'm by no means a pro, but I do have a 4-inch thick book that I printed off that I could, start learning how to read and figure out how everything works on it. So thanks for hanging out with me. Ron with Classic Model Trains. Bye-bye.